What if one story could change your perspective on life forever? In the teachings of Buddha, there are countless stories that have been passed down through the centuries. These stories aren't just about ancient wisdom, they hold powerful lessons that can help us navigate modern life. Today, we'll dive into one such story, a tale that explores the nature of suffering, attachment, and inner peace. It's a story that, if you take its lessons to heart, could transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. In this classic Buddhist story, a man approaches Buddha, desperate for help. His heart is filled with anger, and his mind is clouded by frustration. He feels that the world is unjust and that others have wronged him. He's clinging to this anger, believing it's justified. But despite holding on to this emotion for so long, the man finds no peace, only more pain. This story resonates with all of us, doesn't it? How often do we cling to anger or resentment, convinced that it's the right thing to do? Maybe someone has wronged us, betrayed us, or hurt us in a way that feels unforgivable. But instead of finding relief, holding on to that anger only seems to prolong the suffering. This is the scenario Buddha faced when the man came to him, burdened by his own emotions. Buddha, as always, responded with a teaching rather than a direct solution. He asked the man, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man thought for a moment and replied, "To the person who offered it." Buddha nodded and said, "Exactly. So if I choose not to accept your anger, to whom does it belong?" In that moment, the man realized that his anger was a burden he carried by choice. No one else was holding it for him. Buddha was teaching him that the anger he clung to wasn't hurting anyone else. It was only hurting himself. By recognizing that he had the power to reject this gift of anger, he could free himself from its pain. This is the turning point in the story, when the man finally understood that the emotions he harbored were self-inflicted. He realized that he had the power to let go. His anger, once seen as justified, was now exposed as nothing more than a self-imposed prison. From this simple but profound story, there are several life-changing lessons we can take away. Lesson 1: Acceptance and letting go. One of the most powerful lessons is the importance of letting go. In life, we often cling to negative emotions, holding on to anger, resentment, or jealousy because we feel justified in doing so. But as this story shows, holding on to these emotions doesn't punish anyone else. It only harms us. Letting go is the key to finding inner freedom. By releasing negative feelings, we open the door to peace and healing. Lesson 2: The role of compassion. Buddha's teachings often emphasize compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. Compassion allows us to forgive, not because someone deserves it, but because holding on to pain only deepens our suffering. By cultivating compassion, we soften the harsh edges of anger and resentment. We can begin to see the humanity in others and in ourselves. Buddha taught that compassion is the antidote to suffering because it transforms how we relate to our pain. Lesson 3: Mindful reflection. Finally, the lesson of mindful reflection encourages us to take a step back and observe our emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively to anger, we can pause, reflect, and ask ourselves, is this emotion serving me? This simple practice of mindful reflection can reduce the intensity of our emotions and allow us to see them for what they are: temporary and often self-imposed. Buddhism teaches that emotions are fleeting. They come and go like clouds passing in the sky. By taking the time to reflect, we gain the clarity to understand that emotions don't define us, and they certainly don't control us unless we allow them to. So how can you apply these lessons in your daily life? Step 1: Identify your anger or resentment. Take a moment to reflect. Is there something in your life that you're holding on to, whether it's anger, frustration, or resentment? Identify it, name it, and acknowledge its presence. This is the first step toward letting go. Step 2: Ask yourself the key question. Once you've identified it, ask yourself, is holding on to this emotion serving me? Recognize that, just like in the story, you have the power to refuse this gift of negativity. You can choose to set it down and walk away. Step 3: Practice compassion. Finally, practice compassion. Show yourself kindness and understanding. You don't have to hold on to pain to protect yourself. Forgiveness, both toward others and yourself, is a gift that frees you from the cycle of suffering. By practicing these steps, you can experience the same transformation that the man in Buddha's story did. You can free yourself from the burden of emotions that no longer serve you and find peace. As Buddha taught, true peace is within our control when we learn to release what causes inner suffering. This story reminds us that we are not prisoners to our emotions unless we choose to be. By embracing acceptance, letting go, and cultivating compassion, we unlock a life of inner freedom and lasting peace. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights from Buddhist wisdom. Remember, the journey to peace begins within. And as Buddha said, you, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection.